Good morning. We're going to get started, so if you can take your seats, please. Bob. That's my only one. Don't lose it. I mean, yeah, don't take them. Yeah, that's yours. No worries.
All right, please take your seats. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, auxiliary. How we doing? Everybody have a good time last night? All right, for those of you who joined me on the dance floor, you earned your auxiliary merit, fitness merit badge, so woo-hoo! That's it. All right. Everybody had a good time last night? It was a lot of fun. We need that after a long week of training, So I reconvene the meeting of the National Board. I would typically call for a visual confirmation of a we have members.
Right. With a briefie. Of emergency 9 AEDs throughout the hotel. The closest location is downstairs in the atrium lobby at the front desk. We have 2 emergency exits behind you and 2 behind me. So if there is a fire, use those. If you're walking in the front of the room, there are cords down with rugs over top of that, and it's kind of uneven, so just watch your step if you're walking through the front of the room. It is now my pleasure to introduce the head table. Please hold your applause until all are introduced. First, we have the 37th National Commodore, Maria Kirkwood. To her right, Rear Admiral Wayne Arguin, the Assistant Commandant for Prevention Policy. To his right, Commodore Linda Merriman, Deputy National Commodore, Information Technology and Planning. Continuing to her right, Commodore Sonny Thatch, Deputy National Commodore, Atlantic Area West and Mission Support. And to his right, the Chief Director of Auxiliary, Captain Brent Schmadeke. On Commodore Kirkwood's left, Vice National Commodore Pat Ferry. To his left, we have, making sure I've got him in the right order on here, Deputy National Commodore Atlantic Area East and Recreational Boating Safety, John Krogman. To his left, Commodore Michael Boerzoff, Deputy National Commodore Pacific Area and Operations. And to his left, Acting Immediate Past National Commodore Alex Molesky. I will now introduce our Assistant National Commodores. Assistant National Commodore FORSCOM, Tom Monis. Assistant National Commodore Response and Prevention, Rick Saunders. Assistant National Commodore Recreational Boating, Chris Wilson. Assistant National Commodore Information Technology, Amanda Constant. Deputy Assistant National Commodore Finance, Bart Knapp. Assistant National Commodore Chief Counsel, Bruce Kelton, here. Assistant National Commodore Admin Services, Rich Milichek. And President National Association of Commodores, Commodore Bob Schaefer. From the Coast Guard Headquarters, Chief Director Piera, is that right? Master Chief Jason Hermes. Ontario, U.S. Coast Guard Commander Steve Keel. Also, if you are a DIROX District Director or an OT, will you please stand? Thank you guys for all, and ladies for all you do. We appreciate y'all. From Coast Guard Museum, we have Captain Wes Pulver, Coast Guard Retired Rescue. Bell and volunteer introduction because he's one of the come to these training events we have. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Assistant Commandant for Prevention Policy. Rear Admiral Commandant for Prevention Policy is responsible for the development of national policy, standards, and programs promoting marine safety, security, and environmental stewardship. 3 directorates carry out the mission: inspections and compliance, marine transportation systems, and commercial regulations and standards. Programs include waterways management, navigation, and boating safety, ports and facilities, merchant mariner credentialing, vessel documentation, marine casualty investigation, commercial vessel casualty investigation, commercial vessel investigation, and port state control. Rear Admiral Argwood is keep going. Is a 1992 graduate of the Coast Guard Academy, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering. And in 2001, he earned a Master's of Science degree in Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering from the University of Michigan. Prior to his current assignment, Rear Admiral Argwood served as the Director of Inspection and Compliance, also at U.S. Coast Guard headquarters. His previous operational assignments include Sector Commander, Sector New Orleans. He also served as Executive Officer of Marine Safety Office, Memphis, Tennessee, and Prevention Department Head at Sector Lower Mississippi River, where he coordinated waterways management, vessel inspections, mariner licensing, and marine casualty investigations on the Lower Mississippi River and its tributaries. In 1994, Captain, okay.
Good morning.
A lot.
She told me I had 45 minutes. I said, well, read the long bio. Well, good morning, Mary, and the entire leadership team. As was mentioned, I've been here several times. I'm probably one of the only flag officers that is still in its current position with some of the change that's happened, but I am absolutely honored to be here and talk through some of the things that are happening within the prevention community, and as well as talk about some of the changes that we expect to see with Forces 928 and where the service is going to better deliver for the American people. And I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to folks, and there were questions. Probably the number one question is, how does the auxiliary fit into that vision? And I will certainly hone in on a couple of things. We talked about it a little bit during the flag board yesterday about how at least I and DCO Admiral Schofield see the important work that the auxiliary will be doing in the future. But I'll also talk just a little bit about sort of what's happening with respect to the Coast Guard and sort of the model that they're using, maybe give you some insights if you want to go look up some of the structural things that are happening within the service. I'll tell you right now, Vice Commandant's coming in, and he probably has the closest bead on where we're going, and that's by design. We are moving quickly to reorganize the organization to better deliver services to the American. When I was here last year, Admiral Gaudier and I talked through sort of a mind shift when it comes to contested logistics. And we talked about the importance of the auxiliary during World War II and how the auxiliary helped the Coast Guard, helped the nation get after that particular problem set. And I would say that threat is still there. We are preparing to support the marine transportation system to be able to deliver the force that we need at a time of our own choosing. And the auxiliary will play an important role in that effort. I don't anticipate you're going to be riding horseback along the beach, but we are going to be using eyes and ears throughout the entirety of our 95,000 miles of coastline, and each and every one of you and all of the folks that you work with have a part to play in that. You'll hear a lot about Forces 928, and sort of the couple of the buzzwords from Forces 928. Number one, it's all about service delivery and outcomes. And so we are working as a team to try and figure out what are those metrics that we're going to be able to use to describe those three buckets. So secure and defend our borders, ensure the free flow of commerce, and then be able to effectively manage in contingencies and crisis. And as we work through what those different metrics look like, it's all about service delivery. And so when I think about that from a prevention perspective, we do inspections, we do investigations, we issue credentials. How can we streamline our processes to be more effective, more efficient at delivering those services? I think the same thing about what goes on within the auxiliary. How can you be more effective, deliver vessel examinations in a creative, different way, reach more people? And so there's a lot of things that I'm going to ask you to think differently about the way you do your business. Not change the essence of what you do, but maybe change how you do it so that we can be more effective. When I think through contested logistics and I think through sort of the idea where we had to deal with that particular, we your active duty components are right now working through a concept called Trident Forge, which is how do we ensure the integrity of the marine transportation system throughout its entirety, whether it's I need to move Navy assets or I need to bring in Mardi Gras beads. How do I keep that flow of commerce going when that system is challenged? And so your local sectors are working through what's that force complement that I'm gonna need? How do we deal with that from a contingency perspective, but also how do we deal with it from a crisis? We're really good at hurricane operations. Anybody that's been in the Gulf of America knows right now we're sort of at the peak, and we're really good at being able to shut down a port, to protect that port, move cargo where we need to do it, to protect those assets. We can hold our breath for a little bit, hurricane passes, and then we reconstitute. How do we do that for a year, 2 years, 3 years at a time? That's gonna be a challenge. That is gonna absolutely strap our workforce. And so we've got to figure out a different way of managing that particular risk. A couple of the items that are sort of within the prevention portfolio that are sort of enduring. Maritime, 2 phones, everybody's got at least a phone. Connected. And we live, right? I can't prevent that disruption. How do you maintain that flow of information? And when ships start to have that same challenge and somebody wants to interject themselves in that and start causing problems, we've got to have the ability not only to detect that, but then to ideally prevent that particular adversary from causing that type of harm, and then be able to bring that system back up. So resiliency, building resilience. I don't think anybody that lives in that cyber world thinks about we can 100% defend that network and prevent every bad thing from happening. It's not if you're gonna have a cyber attack, it's when you have a cyber attack, can you very quickly bring that system back up so the impact of that attack is minimized. And if you can minimize the attack, then you're not exactly gonna be the top target. And so we're working, I've got an entire team that's working right now to figure out, not only on a rulemaking side, what are those things that need to be put in place to raise the bar to protect those networks, but then what should we be doing as we go forward to incrementally sort of keep pace and get ahead, ideally, of adversaries and their opportunities to impact that network. So what do I think? Well, I'll just briefly touch on Force Design 28. The idea behind Force Design 28 is we're going to centralize our entire operations around those 3 buckets. So secure, defend our borders. And our borders include all of our ports, where you operate. We need to make sure that people that are operating within our ports are there legitimately, that they're doing things that we expect them to do. When we typically think, you see on the news, you see our Coast Guard cutters that are off, you're sort of out, pushing our borders out further. Every one of those 95,000 miles needs to be protected and defended. The flow of commerce piece, right? Delivering the force from a sector perspective so that we can effectively maximize the efficiency of that port. There is not a country in the world that doesn't survive without the flow of commerce. International commerce is the lifeblood of any country that looks to project power. And if you don't have those treasures that come in through an economy, you aren't able to build and exercise influence and project power around the world. So it's vitally important. If you want to get the average citizen sideways, just think back to when Long Beach had a port disruption, right? People have become comfortable, and I probably did it last night. I ordered something on Amazon, I expect to be there tomorrow, right? That expectation for immediate delivery of services, when that gets disrupted, that causes all kinds of problems, and that'll be a political challenge that you will have to deal with. And so ensuring the safe and efficient and reliable flow of commerce throughout the entire logistics chain is absolutely gonna be critical. And then that contingency piece, that is not only just dealing with hurricanes and floods, that's dealing with nefarious activities. And so how do you secure those networks to ensure that you are able to provide resilience in that system is absolutely gonna be what the Coast Guard's focused on. What you didn't hear me talk about was boating safety. So if we're gonna be focused on those big 3 buckets, where do you think I'm gonna need somebody to cover down? I'm gonna need the auxiliary even more today to cover down on recreational boating safety, to ensure that the people that have the opportunity to take advantage of the waterways, and recreate and enjoy things on boats, that they're able to do so safely and effectively. Because if they don't, if they're not educated, what do you think happens, right? They get sideways and they become a customer from our search and rescue perspective. And that's going to take away resources that are going to be focused on those other three areas. So education up front is going to be a pivotal thing that we're going to be expecting you to not only do that you're doing today, but probably do a lot more of. The other question that had come up is like, so what else can we do from an auxiliary perspective to help as the Coast Guard moves forward? I asked that question of you. When I was here before, and maybe 2 or 3 times before, I said, look, you guys have a wealth of talent, wealth of experiences. Think through those problem sets that we're thinking through, and if you've got ideas on how not only the auxiliary can help, but how you've got ideas on how the Coast Guard can better do their job, don't be a mouse in the corner. Be vocal. And I know many auxiliaries are not wallflowers, right? You guys have no problem coming up and telling me how we should do our jobs, right? Please continue to do that. I need those ideas, right? Because if there's one big change that's happened with the change in the administration, the expectation is we eliminate bureaucracy, right? Let's flatten the organizational decision-making, get those good ideas up for decision makers and take action on those decisions, yes or no, and then move on to the next thing. We have become very bureaucratic, and eliminating all of those extra layers in decision-making is something that is absolutely happening right now. Commandant Admiral Lunde is the operational commander. That is a big change from where we were 6 months ago. He takes regular tactical briefs each day and is making tactical decisions about where we're going to put assets and how we're going to position our forces. That used to be the area commanders that did that work. And so we're in the process right now of restructuring headquarters to be able to manage that workload. But then we're also going to be looking at our field delivery. And so in October, we're going to be looking at how we're developing the force, but also what are those concepts of operations that are going to be more focused on delivering in those 3 buckets. And so I fully expect a different Coast Guard, when I say different, I don't think we're going to blow up sectors. I don't think we're going to necessarily blow up districts. But how we deliver those services are absolutely going to change. And there will be management controls put in place to ensure that we are delivering for what the American public expects. And so there will be lots of churn. And that's not a bad thing, right? It is good to every once in a while take a step back and say, you know, where can we redefine the way we do business to be more effective? And if I could give you a place to look to understand sort of how we're going through that, there's a gentleman that works as a CEO, runs a company called CEO Works. He's a prior Coast Guard officer. His name's Sandy Ogg, and he is consulting with the Commandant, with Mr. Planky, and he has a wealth of knowledge, years of experience at going through companies and basically taking them down and refocusing their efforts. And so we are following sort of his model of think big, act small, and move fast, right? So big ideas, companies fail when they try to restructure, when they come up with all the good idea fairies and they try and execute on all of them, and then they get none of them done. And so you'll see some restructuring where we are making some business decisions, moving out quickly, demonstrating effect, which builds momentum, which ultimately then leads to that change that you want to see. And if you want to know whether or not the American public believes in the Coast Guard, all you have to do is look at $25 billion reconciliation. They are investing like no time in the entirety of the Coast Guard, $25 billion to restore capability, to provide us enhanced capability, both in our aircraft, our shore forces, and our cutter forces. I think that is, not only is that a little bit like the dog catching the car, right? We've been screaming, we never get the funding that we need. Now we've got the funding, now you better execute. And so the first part of Force Design 28 was to restructure our entire acquisition program so that we are more streamlined to be able to execute on those mission sets. Navy aircraft, buying more cutters, more capable cutters. The thing that's probably going to be most challenging, and I'm absolutely going to need your help, bring in 15,000 more Coast Guard men and women, both on the active duty side, the civilian side, and I think that also means we're going to have to bring in more auxiliaries, right? And the work that you've done, I think 3 years ago we were talking about recruiting is number one. We've got to we are absolutely filling the bus at Cape May. And that's largely in part to the work that you've done to spread the word, right? And so we're going to need more of that. We're going to need more of your stewardship of engaging with the public and ensuring that they understand the great work that we do and that people want to be part of this organization. And they want to be part of your organization, right? You are all carrying the water for what the Coast Guard, a lot of people see you guys and they go, hey, Air Force? They do the same thing to me, right? That's your end to be able to say, no, I'm Coast Guard Auxiliary or Coast Guard, right? And then talk about the things we do. The bartender last night, what are you here for? It's like, Coast Guard, what's the Coast Guard? It's like, I'm constantly amazed that people don't understand what we do and how we matter to the American public. But there's always an opportunity to do that. And bringing in 15,000 people right now in our current budget for FY27, we're authorized 4,377 billets. So in 2 years, we're gonna have seats for that. Right now is the time for us to be figuring out how we're gonna fill those positions and then what we're gonna do with those positions. And I think the auxiliary has a huge role to play in reaching the right people that we wanna reach and then getting them in the door, whether that's through AIM or whether that's through boot camp. We're actually considering opening up a session point because we filled the bus so much. Cape May cannot handle any more folks going through Cape May. We've got to have a second place where we can bring people in to meet that demand signal. A couple of other things. I've got 4 minutes. All right. Take as much as I can drag it out. You did. Restoring American maritime dominance. You've seen a number of different executive orders that have come out from the White House. That is something that is 100% in my wheelhouse. And so the president has said we will restore American shipbuilding capacity. We back up with China the way that they've got a pretty good head. But one of the is eliminating unnecessary sort of process. And so the team has been going through all of our regulations. We've got about 400 different areas where people have said, I don't like that, make it go away. Some of that I can make it go away because it is duplicative. Others, I don't have the choice. It's a law, and I don't get to go down that path. But I also see the deregulatory effort within the auxiliary. We need to find a way to make it easier to be an auxiliarist, right? And you heard yesterday, Admiral Schofield said, you know what, I'll take that. And so the team here will absolutely be identifying those things that are burrs under your saddles, the things that are going to make it more challenging for you to be a volunteer. I can't give you more pay, although didn't you say you put add another zero to what your paycheck is, and but there are administrative things that we should be able to fix that'll make it easier for you to do the job that you do selflessly, and we're working through those. Some of them, again, I don't have complete control over, but the things that I do have control over, the Commandant's been very clear. We need to move out on those quickly. So if it's a policy issue that we need to get adjusted, we're going to move out on that. And you heard my boss say that absolutely he's committed to doing that. His boss will be here tonight, have the opportunity to tell him, to people senior in the White House, they go, I want the Coast Guard to stop doing this. And that goes VFR direct right to me. I got 3 emails yesterday about that. And so that is absolutely being tracked. And so I'm committed to ensure we can find ways to make it easier for you so to detract from that. So please be vocal on that. Let us know what we can do. I will go. Well, you gave me another 6 minutes. Maybe I won't take that much time. Organizationally, so the Coast Guard, we reduced our flag corps by 25%, and that can be challenging, right? Fortunately, I was able to continue. But I think that's an indication of, from a leadership perspective, that we're going to push decision-making down in the organization to flatten the organization. And one thing that has not changed is we still have an Office of Boating Safety. Captain Confer was here. He replaced Captain Beach in the 5PC position. And so we will have some continuity there. ensure that your needs are being considered and taken care of. One final point, I mentioned it yesterday, questions about C-schools and budget. Reconciliation with $25 billion does not allow us, that's all buy stuff, right? That's not operate stuff. That opens up more room in our budget, things like parks. And so, again, we're going to take a look at how we can open and think differently. To me, well, that's one of the benefits that we can provide you, is providing you with access to training. And I know that bucket had dried up, and so we're going to look for ways to open that up. I can't tell you how much we can open it up, but it is an imperative that we'll be considering to look for ways to be able to provide more of those opportunities in the future. So I think maybe I'll close there. I'll be here tonight. Right before I close, I do want to take a moment to just talk about the leadership team that you currently have in place. I think Mary and the team have done a phenomenal job in really challenging situations. You know, unexpectedly, guess what? You're the boss. Figure it out. That does not go unnoticed, right? And I think your leadership team, and your leadership in particular, your care and feeding of the entire organization, I'm personally very thankful for that. I know it wasn't easy to pick up the pieces and now, all right, this organization going so that the things that they do. I know the passion that you have for the job, and it's infectious. It wasn't infectious enough to take me out on the dance floor yesterday.
I tried.
I had to take a phone call or some big policy I need to talk about for about an hour. But I do appreciate willingness to jump in, deal with really challenging problem sets, and continue to keep the focus on the men and women of the auxiliary to support you. And so I absolutely look forward to seeing you tonight. Understanding what are some service to make a little easier, effective, and very much look forward to visiting with everyone today and tonight. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Ogren. It is now my pleasure to introduce she is the CEO at the 501c3 Coast Guard Mutual Assistance Office. Official Relief Society for CGMA delivered $1 million in grants and loans to support the financial resilience of the Coast Guard community, and in doing so, CGMA is entirely donor funded. Brooke joined CGMA following a remarkable 21-year active duty career as a cutterman and rider in the including 2 commands of. Brooke led her crews on deployment supporting Homeland Security missions such as migrant and drug interdiction from Greenland to Colombia, work highlighted by Fox News and CNN. She holds an MA in English from the University of Maryland and has authored 17 articles as a speechwriter for the Commandant. A former executive at the U.S. Naval Institute, she pursues her MBA at Georgetown. Brooke is a Coast Guard spouse and mother of 2. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. All right. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for serving. Thank you for the Academy the last 3 years. For the first able to Academy, because there's over, and I imagine today I'm about CGMA because it's all about Guard Auxiliary opportunity. So, Coast Guard, I have about 9 do a quick rundown about how we do it. We are the official relief society of the U.S. Coast Guard. Every service has just one. If you served in the Army, your relief society was Army Emergency Relief. If you served in the Navy, it was Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, Air Force Aid Society, and Coast Guard Mutual Assistance is it for the Coast Guard. We are actually codified in congressional law, 10 USC 1033, and it says that we are the designated military service. We are the designated relief society for the service. Anyways, we help our own, and for many years we've been doing this. Auxiliaries are part of our family, so we help active duty, auxiliaries are part of our family, so we help active duty, civilian employees, reservists, retirees, and auxiliaries. What makes us the official Relay Society is our governance. Unlike any other Coast Guard philanthropic organization that I'm familiar with, our chair is our commandant. Our president of our board is Admiral Zita, who just took over work management. We are entirely representative of the community we serve. We have an auxiliarist, Mike Phillips. He's out of Cincinnati. He serves on our board. He's on our finance committee. And this governance is really unique because although I am not a government employee, I work for the Coast Guard. And the person who hired me was Admiral Raymond, who was the Commandant of Workforce Management prior to Zeta Merchant. So it's a strange dynamic, but as a CEO of a nonprofit, our job is to make sure that our small staff of 15 of us support the Coast Guard. So there's just a couple of dates there for you. 1924, that's when we were formed. It started off as a spouses organization where people were passing that in order to support Coast Guard members who were coming back from World War I. In 1941, Admiral Weishi, during World War II, made it a Coast Guard quasi-element, staff element, where it was run by active duty members, distributes funds to those who needed it. And then 1981, that's when our services became open to auxiliaries. Mission is to help our own, and we provide grants and interest-free loans to support members going through financial challenges so that they can help keep their on mission. So why CGMA? Who here has heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Hey, Tyler Kelly is in the front row. Tyler Kelly used to teach this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and organizational behavior and leadership. And this theory is actually everyone in the Coast Guard learns. If you are an E5, you go through LAM's course, you learn it. If you're a cadet at the Coast Guard Academy, you learn it. And this is what we see in action. So to summarize, Tyler, I'll do my best. In order for a human being to thrive in their work, in their home life, on their sports team, they need to have basic needs. And those foundational needs are you need to have food in your belly, you need to have a roof over your head, you need to have gas to get to a place of work, right? Safe in your environment. You need to have psychological safety, physical safety to be there. We need to feel a sense of belonging, that people value who we are and value our contributions. And then we develop our self-esteem and confidence. And once you get all of those together, then you can be a thriving individual in your life. And this extends throughout, human behavior. So Coast Guard Mutual Assistance exists because we know, and we saw this during the 2019 government shutdown, when the Coast Guard members did not get paid. We saw that as soon as people were concerned about their food, about their shelter, about their rent, or paying their mortgage, their minds immediately went to, how am I going to satiate those needs? So I was the XO of Cutter Eagle at the time. We were preparing to sail across the Atlantic Ocean, and I had members, hoisting new sails up 140 feet up, and these people were concerned about, how am I going to pay my rent? Super dangerous situation, right? We want them to focus on the mission. And in 2019, Coast Guard Mutual Assistance came in big time, and we provided payroll loans. I think we distributed about $8 million in about 3 weeks to help people get through that time. And right now, CGMA is postured that we can provide the entire Coast Guard active duty workforce with housing allowance in the event of another government shutdown. We have been able to liquidate assets. Also, for your awareness, if that ever happens again, USAA First Command and Navy Federal will also give you a 0% interest for whatever pay you get that month. So that's how we're able to do it, because of those partnerships. We provide support in, I have put in bold the different programs are eligible. So for repairs, and actually we did have 7 for home repair. Day-to-day support, provide Coast members with PCS childcare grants, loans, special needs grants. Your auxiliary members are, they can get adoption assistance, either a grant or a loan. Care loans, we provide that. Mental and medical and dental loans, things that are not covered by insurance, we can support those. Commodore, good to see you again. He suggested that we can increase to auxiliary. My board of directors, the management committee, is reviewing. I think we should have a decision on that in the next few weeks, and I think we're going to get to yes. So I'll stay posted, and we'll socialize that. That way, if you have a new, sometimes it's expensive to buy a kit of uniforms, we will provide that in a loan or a grant. Educational assistance. One of our most popular programs is the Supplemental Education Grant, which auxiliary are eligible for, and also a debt management loan. So I think I'll talk about the debt management loan in a minute. I'm going to just keep going here. We have some of this, where there's over 40 programs online, and it can get overwhelming and what you might need or what your members might need. So we have created an AI tool on our website where you can click on that red button and it says describe your need. It'll take you to this text box, and so in this case it says, I am an auxiliarist and need help with home repairs. Hit go, and they'll take you to the applicable programs that someone can apply for, and then it gives you more information. So in this case, I can't read that, but it goes up to $8,000 or so, $9,000 in home repairs. We can give a grant or a loan, and everyone's different. What I would suggest is, if there's ever a need at your unit, give us a call, because sometimes things don't fit into cookie-cutter programs, but we do try to get to yes all the time. So give us a call if you're having trouble with our website or with the local Coast Guard rep. Everything is online, though. You can start an application, so we're trying to increase access. You just need to include a user password, create an account. And then typically the application timeline is once the member uploads the necessary information into our portal, the local Coast Guard Mutual Assistance rep, which we have over 600 across the country, and you can find them on our website, but it'll go to them, they'll look at it, review it, approve it, and then you typically get funds within a couple hours to a couple days, depending on the level of review. And it's all electronic fund transfers, completely transparent. Once again, you can find your local representative through our website. That's a link on the top right. So here's our spending so far this year. This is actually a little dated. This is from mid-July. But it looks like so far we've given out about $5 million in loans this year and over $1 million in grants. And although it's small to see, the major buckets that we provided support for is the rental assistance loan, the basic living expenses program, the most right now. The Coast Guard, about, I think, several years ago, in order to bring in new recruits, the debt-to-income ratio is 30. From what I understand, increase. So we have a lot more people coming into our Coast Guard, especially junior members, who have some debt, right? They have some challenges with credit. And since the 90s, we've had a program to help people get through those times. And so if you have even auxiliary members, this is a program that's eligible for auxiliary. If there are people in your command or people you know of who need support with debt management, have them call our office, talk to the rep, but we can get them back on track so they don't go down a rabbit hole there. Our giving breakdown for 2024. Last year, we gave out $8.5 million in total support. That's direct support to individual Coast Guard members, including the auxiliary. It was actually over $3 million in grants. So we supported 5,000 active duty clients and 61 auxiliary clients. And I imagine as we talk more about what CGMA is to the auxiliary, I think that number is going to go up because I think we'll see more auxiliary members who understand their benefits and they can apply. And I encourage you to tell them for you. The largest grant we gave last year was to an E5 member. He was BM2, had just reported a station San Key about 2 days before Hurricane Helene came through. He had moved his household goods into his new home. It's like a single-level ranch. And because of a named storm, he was not able to get renter's insurance. Because if there's a named storm and you have to get, and when he came back, he noticed he had 6 feet of flooding in his house and a sewage backup. And this 4 years old, 25 years old, brand new. And Command Master Chief called us and said, "Hey, what can you do?" And I said, I had just read the last 100 years of Board of Director meeting minutes, and I knew that we have done some significant grant and support in the past. I said, send it. Let's see what we can do. And so that level of request has to go through multiple levels. And then it finally gets approved by the Board of Directors at large, and they said, absolutely, let's do it. And so we were able to give that gentleman a $24,000 grant so that he could, rebuild his life, because the Coast Guard would never have helped him with that. We're just not allowed to. So that's why CGMA exists. And so we can do that at scope and scale, which is incredible. And I don't want to give CGMA the credit for this, because you'll see in another slide that it is all us. It's mutual, right? We're all in this together, and CGMA is for us. We're 100% donations. Support grants. We give loans all day long because in 2019, USAA gave a $15 million gift that is only so we are need, but giving a loan member or auxiliary low risk. Here's our revenue stream. So last year we made $3.5 million in donations. We made $3.5 million, 8.5 to the Coast Guard. $1 million that we provided to the Coast Guard was in grants. But anyways, this is what our giving breakdown is. So you'll see on this pie chart, it's a little small for you, but about 60% of the revenue we get every year comes from the community we serve. So that's your active duty members who donate typically via allotment $5 a month, or a retired member who might give us $5 a month, or a significant other portion. Auxiliary members contributed to 4% last year. So 4% of $3 million, that's about $150,000, I think. So thank you, auxiliaries who support CGMA. If you remember the slide that was earlier, we gave about $150,000 in support to auxiliaries. So that's pretty equal. Thank you. But we definitely, we don't have a lot of corporate contributions, and one of our challenges, because we have a board of directors that is very much a base of federal employees, we do have some challenges when it comes to fundraising. So we are very, we like the donations from our active duty retirees, civilian employee workforce. The allotments really mean a lot to us. So how can you support CGMA? Well, you can donate, obviously. You can also host a fundraiser. So this year we made $1.7 million, which is great. But we can certainly have it if auxiliary want to host a CGMA. That would be amazing, and you can talk to Stanley about that. Also, you can join our ambassador program. Valerie Stanley is our lead for that. She's here today, and she's been here the last couple of days. but she will train you and become an ambassador to talk about who we are, what we do, why we do it, right? Which would be wonderful. And then you can tell others about us. So follow us on LinkedIn, check us out on Instagram or on Facebook. We do post a lot of information in those spaces and updates through those methods. So I'm going to stop here. I'll take a question or two if you have one. Yes, sir. Thanks. So the question was, can auxiliaries do monthly donations? Yes, you can do it through setting up like a recurring credit card donation. That's something you could certainly do. What the active duty retirees and civilian employees can do, since they get that federal paycheck, they can set up the allotment. But reservists can't do that at this moment, and clearly auxiliary can't either, unless you're retired. Other questions? Oh, I also want to just add one more thing. So as Admiral Arguin said, the Coast Guard is growing by 30% of its workforce, and so too our revenue by 30%, so we can support the new members coming in. And we do have a plan for that. So it's at the Coast Guard Academy yesterday, I started my speech with, why do you serve the Coast Guard? And I cold called cadets. One of them was to serve others, to give back. I love my country. And not a single one of them said it. I did it for the free education, or I did it for a job. I mean, they really are all about serving. And I just am so thankful that I'm among people who are just willing to donate their time and energy to support our nation and do what you can to make things better. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, great information and presentation, Brooke. Thank you so much for joining us and your team and all you do. We will now hear a partner agency update with Civil Air Patrol from Commodore Peter Jensen.
Good morning. Well, as most of you know, the United States has not one, but two civilian armed force auxiliaries. Aside from our own Coast Guard auxiliary, the Air Force has an auxiliary too. It is better known as Civil Air Patrol. The Civil Air Patrol, or CAP. This was founded in December 1st, 1941, just days before our nation's entry into World War II. Like our own auxiliary, CAP performed heroically during the war. They're most remembered for their role in boats. Usually unarmed, the small CAP airplane and did bring the unwanted with bombs. The modern CAP is organized in a manner not dissimilar to our own auxiliary. 8 geographic regions oversee the 52 wings, 50 of which correspond to U.S. states, plus the Puerto Rico wing and the National Capital Wing. Today's CAP has 3 broad missions. They are emergency services, cadet program, and air education. Regrettably, our nation's 2 auxiliaries labored too far apart for too long a time. Fortunately, the current senior leadership on both sides are seeking a closer working relationship. So what steps have been taken so far? CAP has a full resource in the form of their program. While many cadets at Air Force Academy in Colorado, many others seek auxiliary is charged with supporting the Coast Guard. It falls to us to keep the thoughts of CAP's. We've sent Academy admissions partners to 18 CAP wing conferences in the past 9 months, and they've been well received. Another 4 wings have committed to having partners aboard for their conferences: New York, Massachusetts, California, and Pennsylvania. Now, many cadets cannot make it to their wing conferences, and it's often not easy to get partners out to the more remote conference venues. So with the concurrence of the Academy's admissions office, we decided to target the elite of the cadet program, their cadet officers. These young people are excellent candidates for the Coast Guard Academy. Squared away, academic, basically fit, and leadership experience. Created an announcement tailored for each CAP wing aimed at all of their cadet officers. This approach meant the cooperation of CAP commanders, academies. National meeting in Atlanta just last week, things were shaken, and a lot of challenge coins were out. Every wing out to their cadet officers right away, and that is happening now. It's a lot larger than we are. 37,000 and about 32,000. CAP owns about 550 modern high-wing aircraft. Aside from their work with cadet flight familiarization and operation training, CAP undertakes an impressive array of Air Force taskings. I should also mention CAP's maritime surface assets, and here they are. And nothing to see here. In fact, CAP is forbidden under its own regulations with boats. Good opportunity for the training and operation. Such cooperation could take many forms. In those parts of our country with no Aux-Air coverage, District Arctic and District Northwest come to mind, a joint air surface response could involve CAP aircraft and auxiliary vessels. In other areas with strong Aux-Air coverage, a joint air surface response could involve our own aircraft and CAP aircraft working together. Other permutations could include the addition of a land response component involving the deployment of CAP ground teams. Joint operations would require the drafting of a new letter of intent. LD cleared the NEXCOM and is now under review with Coast Guard Legal. In short, good things are happening between us and our sister executives. Stay tuned, more to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we are going to take a quick break before we come back and start the next. Let's take 10 minutes. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes, so start walking towards. We're going to go ahead and get started back. Take your seats. I have another pack if you need them.
All right, thank you for getting back. I hope you, we brought some snow. Take it away.
All right. Welcome back. We are now going to call Richters or Kirkwood. Captain front for a presentation. All up front.
Captain Koch, please, the front. District Director of Auxiliary, DIROC's DPA of the Year, Captain Stephen A. Koch, Auxiliary Administration operations across the southern and northern regions of the First by supporting over 1,400 members, 289 mission hours, 55 surface, 16 air assets. He launched the district paddlecraft had a shore program, expanded Coast Guard officer commissioning pipelines through the university program, and 11 new organized and auxiliary district training that delivered 30 training topics to over 350 auxiliary. Congratulations on winning the award.
Congratulations. And you're up next when you get.
We are wrapping year's NTS board to adjourn. Board. Here. As we board meeting, I want commitment to the strength of and our ability alongside the United States Guard rests on the dedication of leaders. Of course, not only we responsibility as we carry as stewards of our mission. Together we have addressed charted, identified, shaped the month ahead. Here with a renewed focus to support the coast, our communities. The does not as we
Do. Right. Time. If you haven't gotten your registration packet, chance to do that. Tomorrow, make sure you get your full receipt under the door. Out. That's all I have. It's in this room.
all right.
Within 30 days. 3 days is great.
Side, of course. For being this week, to so many different groups that have been doing incredible work, making in members every single day as they work